In today's Tool Time Tuesday video, I'm going to be taking you guys through the many benefits and the couple downsides to owning the MLZ 75 power hammer. If you've been thinking about getting into a power hammer for your shop as a seasoned blacksmith or as a beginner blacksmith, I think that this is a great option, and I'm going to show you why. So let's go take a closer look and see some of the details. So this is an air hammer, which means that it requires compressed air to run it. It has a 75-pound ram weight, which is a great size, and it has a lot of throat space, so it's really easy to fit top tools in here, which is one of the main benefits and why I got it. It's also very controllable, and you can do single blows really easily. It's really great for top tooling and for specialized tools that usually wouldn't fit in my other hammer, which is the little giant 100-pounder. One of the benefits of this hammer over other air hammers is it has mechanical linkage, which is very reliable. I've never had any issues with it whatsoever, and Ken actually designed the mechanical linkage off of mechanical linkage from some older power hammers that he used to work with. It has interchangeable dies with just 2 bolts on the top die and 2 bolts on the bottom die. You can switch the dies out really easily. You can see here I've got a variety of dies. These are the combo dies from Ken's Custom Iron, and these are some drawing dies that I made up myself. It's very easy to make dies for. You just need a round plate with 2 holes in it, and you can put whatever die setup you want on there. And one of my favorite features is this saddle die setup. Now this makes it really easy and quick to switch your tooling out. And this is my leaf bottom die that I made for my leaf pattern. And you can just pull it right out. There's a hardy hole here, and it basically makes it that easy to just switch out to some other bottom dies that you made. When you're done with your tooling, you just pop that loose, pop that off, and you're ready to get back to normal forging with your flat dies. I also made up a variety of spring swages. This one here is a 1-inch fuller. I use this for putting troughs in hammers, drawing out bits of an axe. There's all kinds of uses for this tool, but this works very, very well. I've got a variety of other spring swages here. This is for making tapers. And this is like a texturing die, hammer texturing. Really, the possibilities are endless. So this is the air input, and this is where you adjust the air pressure. And if you want to hit it hard and heavy, I usually run it about 75 PSI, and that's about as hard as I want to go, and that'll forge out just about anything. However, if you need to bring it down for doing lighter blows and for single taps and going easy on stuff, I'll run it all the way down to like 40 PSI. Or anywhere in between, depending on exactly where you need it. You got an air bleed valve here, so you can bleed the water and moisture out. And then you have an oiler here, and this keeps the internal pneumatics parts oiled. And this is the throttle valve. There's basically a little notch on there, and you just want to put it right past the notch. And that I've found, it runs perfectly, and it'll cycle and do single blows or repetitive hits. And then you have this adjustment down here And if you want to go slower, you can turn it down here. If you want to go really fast and harder, you put it up here. I usually keep it about there for most of the stuff that I do. This tool tray is a removable addition that you can get from Ken's Iron. I really like that because it allows a place to set tooling down or to set your parts down when you're working them. So pretty much every power hammer I've ever seen requires a cement foundation to be poured specifically for the hammer. Now this is a substantial amount of work because you have to cut a hole in your slab and you have to dig it down to the required depth and pour in some concrete. And what this does is it isolates the impact of the hammer blows from your foundation so that you don't put any cracks or anything in your slab. This also adds a significant amount of mass to the sow block, which maximizes the power from each blow. So that's very important. My foundation is 30 inches by 30 inches by about 2.5 feet deep. The only reason I go 2.5 feet deep is because that's where I hit bedrock. And so it's basically poured directly on top of bedrock. And that seems to be sufficient. Now, as far as anchoring it down, I like to drill the holes afterwards, and I put Hilti epoxy with these 3/4 inch anchor bolts, and they've never came loose. Underneath the hammer itself, there is a aluminum composite panel, which is 2 thin pieces of aluminum and a thin piece of plastic in there. And I found that that acts as a good damper to keep the metal from hitting the concrete. I think it also reduces the noise a little bit. However, this hammer is still quite loud. You could also put a layer of hardwood underneath there, and that will kind of reduce the impact as well. Like on my little Giant, I put a layer of hardwood underneath it. So for my forging production process, I've found it really effective to have 2 hammers side by side with 2 different tooling setups so that I can do the maximum amount of forging in one heat. And so I'm able to forge out the first step on the little Giant and then come over here and do the second step on the MLZ 75. And the other benefit is the capability of doing single blows, basically acting as like your own striker or a treadle hammer. Whereas the little Giant, once you get it going, it's going to keep going, and you got to be able to move your tooling in and out really fast, or otherwise you're going to double hit your part. So one of the main advantages to this hammer over my little Giant is the amount of throat space. There is 11 inches between the dies, and that allows for your part that you're forging and top tooling all to fit within this space. Whereas the little Giant only has 2 inches when it's in its resting position. And when it's up, I believe it has about 8 inches. But that's pushing it with getting any top tooling in there. So that's a lot of the benefits, but what are some of the downsides to the MLZ 75 power hammer? So just like all power hammers, the more oil, the better. Every time before I use this, I'll hit it with some lubrication. And what Ken recommends is using the Blaster silicone lubricant right here. And basically I just spray the ram every time. And that's one of the downsides, is that you have to rely on this type of lubricant and spray the ram. No big deal really, but it would be nice if there was some sort of automatic lubrication system in there. Could probably come up with something myself, but I don't mind just spraying it with the lube. Another downside is this thing is ridiculously loud. So if you have neighbors close by that are going to be bothered by a power hammer going off, this one is going to be exceptionally loud. It's much louder than my Little Giant. The Little Giant has like kind of a deep thumping sound. This one has like a really loud clanging sound. So that would be something to note. If you're interested in this and you live in a city neighborhood, you don't want to piss off your neighbors, you might be better off getting a hydraulic press. Now the other downside is that since this is a pneumatic hammer, it does require a pretty significant air compressor in order for it to run properly. If you already have an air compressor, well great. Then you can just add this into your tools and you're good to go. But you do have to consider the fact that if you buy this hammer, I think it was $6,500 when I bought it, you also have to add in the cost of an air compressor. Now this air compressor is probably a little overkill, and I don't think you need one quite this big to run your power hammer, but this is a 10 horsepower motor. It is a single phase and it's pretty large, and it doesn't cycle a whole lot, but really you can't go too big. The bigger the better. I'm not sure how small your air compressor could be in order to run it, but I think I remember hearing that Ken was able to run them at demonstrations off of a smaller compressor. So this hammer was made in America by Ken's Custom Iron at kensiron.com. If you want to check it out there, this is a brand new item that you can purchase from Ken's Iron, and they will ship it to you just like they did for me. So Ken recently passed away, and I wanted to send condolences to Mary Lou and the rest of the family down there at Ken's Custom Iron. That doesn't mean business has stopped. Still in full production. The hydraulic press that they just designed is coming out, and they have a whole array of parts and pieces that can help start your journey into blacksmithing. So I highly encourage you to check out kensiron.com if you want to see this hammer or any of the other stuff that they have available down there. If you found this video informative, don't forget to hammer that like button, subscribe to this channel, because I have a whole bunch more tools that I plan on showing you for Tool Time Tuesday. These are fairly easy videos for me to make, and I'll try to keep them coming and keep a new video coming out every Tuesday. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. It's very loud out there with the rain pouring down on my shop. We got typical Oregon winter weather going on right now. But I wanted to thank all of you very much for following along. And without further ado, we'll jump into some forging footage, and I'll show you guys the Ken's Custom Iron MLZ 75 in use. We'll catch you on the next one.